30 bucks, well spent or wasted? Let's find out. Welcome back to Victory Woodworks with Vic, and I'm Vic. In today's episode, we're going to see whether the $30 I spent on this product from GoingMake was well spent or wasted. So what's inside this box? Well, basically, it's a thin rip jig. So in our next build project, we're going to be cutting a lot of thin rips from lumber. And I wanted to know whether something like this would help me in the process, be the same as the process, or it was just a waste of 30 bucks. Now, typically, the way you cut thin rips are on your table saw, where the lumber is up against your fence and you're slicing off a piece. The problem with that, and we'll show that later, is that you have to keep moving your fence. And each time you move it, you may not move it to the exact same dimension that you're requiring. So if you need 1/4 inch, you may not move it a 1/4 inch. You might move it a little more or a little bit less, in which case your pieces are going to be bigger or smaller. Also inherently with this, there may be some issues, because if you cut it on the side closest to the fence, you challenge yourself with possibly creating a kickback. Okay. The other thing we can do is we can go to the bandsaw. You can cut a lot of thin rips on the bandsaw. Does a pretty good job, except just like this fence, you're constantly moving stuff over or moving the fence over, and your lumber may change thickness each time. And or on the bandsaw, you typically don't get a completely straight cut. So I'm hoping something like this thin rip, which will fit into our miter slot, will actually help us through the whole process. So let me fully unbox this and set it up, and we'll see how it goes. So in this box from GoingMake, which by the way, I don't see how GoingMake ties into anything, woodworking, construction, tool related. I don't get that. But be that as it may, that's their marketing's problem. So inside the box is basically the thin rip jig itself. It's got some nice dials here that lock things in. Little bar that goes inside your miter bar slot, so you can clamp things down, as well as a couple screws and Allen wrenches. So why don't we set this up on the table and see how it fits. Oh, I also forgot to mention the instruction manual. My first impression, after taking it out of the box, things made out of aluminum. It's got this bearing here that only spins in one direction, I believe for safety. Everything slides very nicely. It's got these nice brass knobs. It's got a couple alignment indicators here, which we can set up once we go. Although, to be honest with you, I'll probably use something like a setup block as opposed to the gauge on here. These knobs are basically for this. These are little shaped, I don't know if you can see that, shaped pieces that fit right into your miter slot. And then what you can do is you can crank them down. Alternatively, you've got this bar that you can put into your miter bar, and then using these screws come with the package, they kind of just fit. Not that one, this one. They kind of fit in here, and they slightly spread apart this bar as you tighten down the knob to lock it into place. We won't be using these today because this fits into my miter bar, and I think that's probably a better way for me to use this particular product. But we will hold on to these because you never know. So as I look at this, I'm gonna loosen these up just a little bit. I'm gonna slide it in from this end, even though we're not gonna be using it from this end. So you can see that's basically how it works. So let me change the camera angle so you guys can get a better view. So here you can see the jig. You can see these aluminum blocks that fit into the miter bar. So what we're going to do is we're just going to loosen this up a little bit, stick them in there, and just see what kind of, how all these things engage. You can see we're sliding this thing around. We're going to crank it down, and this thing isn't going anywhere. This is like really locked in there. And then this little brass knob is for our adjustment. We can go back and forth where we need it to be. So we have our 1/4 inch setup block. What we're going to do is we're going to place it next to the blade here. right on one of the teeth that's facing this direction so that we get a 1/4 inch rip. Okay, now what we can do is overall slide this down, take a piece of lumber such as this, bring our saw in, almost lost the remote there, up against this, and then we would cut straight through, leaving ourselves a 1/4 inch strip of wood on this side. Okay, that's how you would use this particular rip jig. Typically, without the rip jig, let's just move this out of the way. What you would do is you would slide this, same spot, lock it down, and then you would kind of cut right through and hope that this came out at a 1/4 inch. So you might add in a feather board like this, and then lock it down to kind of keep your piece of wood or lumber pressed up against, and then you'd cut it down. Will that work? Absolutely. Will it work as well as this? I don't know. We're going to have to find out. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to set this for a 1/4 inch, slice it down, see what it looks like. Then we're going to use our GoingMake Thin Rip Jig, set it for a 1/4 inch, and then we'll measure them at the end and see how that works. Now, the other thing you can do, which I don't recommend because I believe that could lead to massive kickbacks, is if you were to bring this to a 1/4 inch, lock it down, and then cut on this side of the blade. Let me bring it around so you can see that a little better. Cut on this. This is a no-no. Because this, as it's going through, has a potential to get jammed and then shoot back right at you. So you definitely don't want to do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go the non-GoingMake version. You have to measure this board first and figure out where a 1/4 inch is going to be. So let's do that. Okay, so we have our 1/4 inch mark. We're going to bring it on over here to our piece. Seems we're off by about 1/8. The line's in the right spot, but the fence is not. Okay, so we're bringing it in again. And you can see that readjusting and bringing this over takes a little effort to readjust this and get it over. You know what it is? I measured to the wrong side of the saw blade. It should have been on the left side of the saw blade, at least from my perspective. Well, this came out a whole lot closer. It's a 1/4 inch, a little bit proud. But let's see if we can do that for a second time. So if we're going to try to do multiples of these, you can see that this is becoming kind of a process here. So there's our piece of wood. Again, a little bit strong. So, although they are identical, so what can we pull away from this? One, setting up and getting it accurate takes a little time, takes a little effort, and perhaps I just kind of suck at measuring things out, which is why we're off just a little bit. So we got this to work, but you can see there's a little more effort required. Now let's switch over to the GoingMake Thin Rip Jig and see if that works better for us. Now here with the GoingMake, what we're going to do is we're just going to roll it up to the blade itself. Just tighten this down lightly. We're going to get our little 1/4 inch block back out. And what we're going to do is going to spin the blade down and then lock it here. So now we have a 1/4 inch. Put that away. We're also now going to slide our piece back to here because you don't want it up against the blade itself. This again spins in one direction, so wood can only go that direction. What we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of wood, just push it up against the roller ball, and slide our fence over. And you know what? It's there. And I'm pushing here. You can push it back, but it's not easy. So let's see what we get on this one. I don't know if you can see that exactly at one quarter inch. But the big question is, can we do a second one? And will they be the same size? So here, again, we loosen up the fence, take the board, press it up against the rolling wheel, lock it down, and let's give it another go. Exactly at 1/4 inch. So I'm looking at these two pieces. These are identical from a width-wise perspective. I also think that being able to just put your piece of lumber or whatever it is you're cutting up against this, locking it down, pushing it through, and knowing you're going to get the exact same rip every time is a whole lot easier than sitting here with my measuring tape and trying to figure out either how far or on my saw here, inching it over to get the exact same size. Now, we did pretty good here, but they weren't exactly what we were looking for. Here, they're exactly the same. So I'm thinking GoingMake is actually going to make my life a whole lot easier. Maybe that's why they named it that way. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier in the workshop. So I got the calipers out just to see how well we did. So this is the first batch where we did manual without the GoingMake. 0.3375, 0.2955. So besides the fact that I missed the measurement on both cases, you can see that there's a slight difference in the thickness of the two pieces. And that's due to the fact of human error. You know, besides the fact that maybe I'm just terrible at measuring stuff and getting it to align exactly what I want. But overall, I tried to make these the same size, swing and a miss. So these are the two we did with the GoingMake, where we button up against it and we've pre-measured everything. So this one is right on the money, 0.250. And this one, .2795. So we're off by just over 2 or 3/100ths of an inch. So this is a whole lot closer to the sizes that they should be. 3/100ths of an inch. Here, it's over 1/10 difference. So you can see using a tool like this GoingMake is definitely going to make your life a whole lot easier. Maybe that's why they named it GoingMake, because it's going to make your life easier using this tool in the shop than not using this tool. In our next video, we're going to be cutting a lot of strips. So I wanted to figure out the best way to get all the strips uniform. And I think this is going to be the answer to that problem. So stay tuned for the next video. You know, if you like what you saw, you learned something new, please like, subscribe, and catch you in the next video. Stay passionate.